cool. So without further ado, I'm gonna let the Azure team rock and roll here, and I'll get off the stage.
Thanks very much
Keep
indeed,
moving
Diane.
here. Keep the line moving.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many people here. So my team has actually been teasing me about this presentation for weeks on the grounds that we've got 3 gyms all here to present to you on Azure Red Hat OpenShift. They've been saying we're highly available gyms or gym cubed or I don't know what. But anyway, I'm Jim Minter. I'm the team lead for Azure Red Hat OpenShift in Red Hat Engineering. We've been working on this project for a little while now. For people who were here and listening last year, it was pre-announced at last year's summit, and we're delighted to be coming back this year to talk some more about it. With me, I've got Jim Zimmerman from Microsoft. He's the principal product manager who's been driving the program from Microsoft's side. And in a few minutes, we'll be delighted to invite onto stage Jim Anderson as well, who is from Sabre. He's an enterprise architect, and Sabre has been really pivotal and really helping us out as part of the private preview work that we've been doing for Azure Red Hat OpenShift as well, giving lots of great feedback and collaboration on that as well. So what I'd like to do is hand over first to Jim Zimmerman. He'll tell us more about the program, what we've been working on. In the middle, I'll say a few words about some of the features and some of the technical features of the product. And then we're really looking forward to hearing all about the use case and experience of actually using Azure Red Hat OpenShift from Jim from Sabre. So away you go, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so yeah, the HA Jim was a funny joke. And when I saw my kids about it, they just kind of looked at me like, what's HA? I don't understand, Dad. And I was like, well, see, I'm wearing OpenShift on Azure. They didn't get that either. So what we did find out is that all 3 of us are dads. And so you're going to have to deal with some of the dad jokes as we go through this. So, you know, I've been lucky enough to be with Red Hat and Microsoft partnership for 3.5 years. I was originally managing the relationship between Red Hat and Microsoft when we first started. And it was kind of interesting because, you know, a little over 3 years ago, we were all in a room, and someone brought in these special red hats for us, right? And I don't think they were supposed to give us these, but anyway, I think it was just, you know, as a token appreciation of starting the partnership. And one of the first demos they showed us was OpenShift. And we had never seen it before. We didn't even know what it was. And I think it was before it worked with Kubernetes too. So anyway, it was a really good demo. And I was like, God, what's that product? They're like, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it like later. Let's just start with RHEL. So, you know, we started with RHEL. You know, in Azure, a lot of our mutual customers were asking for it, and they wanted better support, right? So the customers were asking us, hey, could you figure out a way to support RHEL on Azure, because we want to use it, and we hate having to have 2 ticketing systems where, you know, we file a ticket with Red Hat, they say don't support it on Azure. We file a ticket with Azure, they say, oh, it's not supported on, or Red Hat doesn't support it. So anyway, we got together and created this first-class support, right? That was the first initiative we did. Then one of the second ones we did is we thought, okay, well, we're launching this SQL Server on Linux. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is one of the popular ones on-prem. Why don't we make something work together? So we got SQL on RHEL. And then we also looked at, or not looked at, but also offer RHEL with SAP. A couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to do a keynote demo here. And we demoed a JBoss app talking to SQL Server running on RHEL that then talked to Windows containers about 2 years ago. It's kind of in OpenShift, I think it was. So it's been a fun journey so far, which brings us to today. So for the last year, our 2 engineering teams have been working really hard together. We have daily scrums. We have a Slack channel. We work together every day. And we're building a platform that will be fully supported and engineered by both companies, right? And so this is really important because as we engineer things together, we find bugs that otherwise we wouldn't have found, right? Or maybe we say, oh, it's their problem, oh, it's their problem. Since we're building the service together, it's our problem, right? So if that means we have to backport certain fixes, we have to change things the way they work in Azure, maybe we have to use specific load balancers, things like that, we actually find the solution. And all of this great work that we're doing feeds back into OpenShift. So whether you're using our service or not, you can still get all the benefits from this relationship with the OpenShift bits on Azure. Okay, so we have, we're building this enterprise in mind. Security, compliance are first, right? We also want the developer experience to be good. Not every developer wants to have to manage their own data apps inside the cluster, right? So we're going to make it easy to integrate with the Azure data services. Since this is fully managed, we are going to do the updates for you. So no more painful running this Ansible script to update the cluster and that stuff. We will do that for you, all right? So as you can see here, this is what a typical OpenShift cluster looks like on Azure. If you're running this in IaaS on your own, how many customers use OpenShift today in Azure? Okay, a few. This is how you're probably running it. Like, this is really the only way to run it. So, you're in charge of basically everything. The only thing that is supported is if you call Red Hat, you'll get support for OpenShift. If you call Microsoft, you'll get support from Azure. So what we've done is we've taken away the complexity, and this is what you're going to see now with the service, right? So all of the IaaS components kind of disappear from your view. We take care of the cluster creation, cluster management, monitoring, logging, network configuration, all the security patches, and then obviously the platform support. What's nice about this is since we do have integrated support, we can wake each other up. So we're using the same ticketing systems. On Microsoft, we use this system called ICM. So if we have an alert that your cluster's down or there's something wrong with it, it can wake up both Red Hat and Microsoft. And since we are together as a team troubleshooting this, there won't be a back and forth of tickets. We, as the engineering team, will fix this problem, and we will be able to wake up each other. And that's a really important feature for customers. So I'm going to pass it back to Jim and talk a little bit more about the developer experience.
Cool, thanks, Jim. So, interesting. That is a slide that's been updated since I last looked at it. That's cool. That's what we like. We're live. All right. Before I talk about the developer experience, I just wanted to say a few more words about the team behind the platform. So it's quite an interesting use case because we are a global team with engineers and support and service SREs globally distributed to work on and to build and support you using this service. So we've got engineers all the way from Australia to Germany, from Mexico to China, in the US and the UK, all over the world. And really, not only in a globally distributed team are we one single team working on this, but we're also one single team working across two different organizations as well. So as Jim said, we do twice weekly Scrum calls between engineering in Microsoft and in Red Hat. We use the same back-end systems. So Azure Red Hat OpenShift is supported and managed using exactly the same back-end systems that support all of the rest of Azure as well. And that provides huge benefits in terms of the capabilities that we have for being able to provide a high-quality support management managed service. Not only is it that we use the same systems, as part of the service, the Microsoft team uses Linux systems, the Red Hat team uses Windows systems, and we all work together using all of these things. We haven't yet got Jim working on Emacs yet, but I know the day is coming. So
I actually do have it in my VM.
So. Well, there you go. Okay, that day is here. Even better. You heard it here first. Okay. So in terms of the actual experience for end users using OpenShift and Azure, the story here is that there's no story. So what we're doing is we're taking and reusing all of the well-known OpenShift bits that you use on-premise, that you might use as part of OpenShift Dedicated or Origin today. It's exactly the same bits that we're using in Azure Red Hat OpenShift as well. So that provides the same core benefits that you see with OpenShift in terms of product security, in terms of conformance, in terms of the way it performs, in terms of portability of your applications. So one of the key things here is for whether you're skilling up people to use OpenShift or whether you're experienced OpenShift users already, really the look and feel and the way that the platform works with Azure Red Hat OpenShift is exactly the same. So whether you're using it on its own in the Azure cloud or whether you're using it as part of a hybrid cloud strategy, all of that stuff fits together directly. So an end user who's using Azure Red Hat OpenShift sees the same OpenShift console that they would be using if it were on-premise or if it were on their laptop. And in fact, the platform as well, from the point of view of the administrator of the platform, it looks and feels very, very similar to any other Azure service. So one of the key things here is that we are a first-party, a first-level, first-class Azure resource. So just like an Azure administrator would organize, would request a network or a load balancer or a VM or a firewall, getting an OpenShift cluster is exactly the same. So it's the same tooling, the REST API or the AZ command line tooling, as you're seeing on the animation right now, to be able to create a cluster. So an end user can create the cluster themselves. They can scale it up, scale it down, change the configuration of it, and at all the time that cluster or all those clusters are fully managed and fully supported by all the way back to the engineering teams that are working so closely together between Microsoft and Red Hat. So another key part of the offering, as well as being very close and identical to the on-premise OpenShift, another key thing is tight integrations between Azure Red Hat OpenShift and the rest of Azure as well. So one example of those is the animation here. So it's the fact that we use Azure Active Directory for single sign-on. So it's reusing the same underlying Azure capabilities as part of the cluster. So we've got close integration for identity. We've got close integration for networking as well. So for example, you can have your OpenShift cluster deployed on cloud and use Azure Express Route technology to then have traffic go between that cluster and your on-premise data center, for example. Or you can have the cluster access other components, either in the Azure cloud or anywhere else, or your own code that's also running in the cloud. As well as sign-on, as well as networking, close storage integrations, and also close integrations with a great deal of other Azure capabilities. So, for example, if you want to run your database on Azure, and then you want to consume the data from applications running in OpenShift, there's also tight integrations there as well.
And I want to make a note here. I just noticed that the animation here, the marketing guys decided to put all .NET there. It does work with other things besides .NET.
That's true.
So I want to be really clear here. That wasn't even planted. I just noticed that. I was like, oh my God, we don't want people to think that. So there's a lot of other resources you can check out today before we bring up Jim Anderson from Sabre. There's a keynote tomorrow with Jim and Satya tomorrow evening. Come check that out. We have a big Microsoft booth. We have a whole OpenShift section that you can come ask us any questions that you want about the service, or if you just want to kind of pick our brains, ask for features, things like that. We have an OpenShift lab on, I forgot to put the day, it's on Thursday. I think it's on Thursday.
It is Thursday, yeah.
Thursday, from 10:45 to 12:45. I don't know if it's full yet. Check it out. I think we allow up to like 50 people.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, and then ask the expert for Azure, Red Hat, OpenShift. Ask our experts anything. And so with that, we want to bring up Jim Anderson from Sabre, talk a little bit about what he's doing with OpenShift on Azure. Okay, let me get your deck going.
All right, together.
All right, good. Looks like there's enough battery power left.
Excellent.
All right, there you go.
All right, you got the clicker set up?
Yes, even though I
perfect.
forgot to use it the whole time.
All right, awesome.
All right. Cool.
Thank you, Jim and
Thanks,
Jim. The third leg of HA Jim. Jim Anderson with Sabre. I've been at Sabre 18 years. I'm with our enterprise architecture team. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sabre. a little bit about our cloud and container journey, what we've done with Azure Managed OpenShift, and then what we hope we could do with Azure Managed OpenShift. A few generations ago, if you wanted to work on technology, you either had to work for the government, work for IBM, or work at an airline. Sabre started back in the 60s as part of American Airlines, kind of processing their flight reservations. How many people here have used Sabre? A few people. Well, if you've ever flown on a plane, stayed in a hotel, or used a rental car, most likely you've used Sabre, but you didn't even know about it. We're kind of on the back end. We're a system that helps the travel industry market, sell, and operate their products. And Sabre's pretty huge. This is on a per second basis. Per second, well, we'll go per day. Per day we handle billions of transactions. And over the course of the year, we support billions and billions of dollars of travel spend. We connect travelers with travel suppliers. When our system status is green, nobody knows who we are. They don't really care who we are. But when our system status turns red, Sabre's name is all over the news. People are waiting in the airport, getting mad at the airline desk clerks, but it's usually not their fault. It could be us. You never know. But that's enough about Sabre. Our cloud and container journey so far, one of the great things about cloud is literally anybody can start using cloud at any minute. Just grab your credit card, swipe it, you have the full power of AWS, Google Cloud, Azure at your fingertips. Who started their cloud journey with the corporate card and expensing it? All right, I'm going to come get you guys later. But 4 years ago when I started cloud at Sabre, this is where we're at. We had our developers were charging cloud on their corporate cards, not because they were being malicious. They just couldn't get what they wanted out of our corporate IT department. So they went ahead and started using it. Around that same time, 4 years ago, we had an epiphany when it came to containers. The epiphany was our IT risk and security department was never, ever going to let us use plain old Docker in production. In fact, if they ever saw Docker running anywhere in the environment, they would go and kill it. All right, let's fast forward a few years. At the beginning of 2018, we'd established a private cloud in Dallas, and we had the third generation of our cloud landing zones in AWS in North America and in Europe. By the end of last year, we had a wide area network that connected all of our clouds together and our data centers so we could easily move workloads from one place to another. In AWS US West 2 out in Oregon, that's where we're developing our next generation platform. At the heart of our next generation platform is Red Hat OpenShift. You don't see Azure on here yet. You see a little dot on there. Azure is coming soon. So at the end in our hybrid cloud strategy, we're going to have our private cloud, we're going to have AWS, and we're going to have Azure, obviously with OpenShift mixed in there. We also have one more cloud that we don't like to talk about. We have a cloud of regret. So is it IBM's cloud? Is it IBM's cloud? You'll have to buy me a beer later to find out which cloud this one is. All right, where are we going? Where's Sabre going? I mean, across all industries, we're all feeling it. Technology is moving faster and faster than ever. And it's the same in the travel industry. All of our airlines, all of our hotels, all of our travel agencies are going through digital transformations. In order to keep up with them and to satisfy our customers, Sabre's having to reinvent itself. And that's what we're doing with our next generation platform that's built on OpenShift and cloud. They want to move fast, and we need our developers to move fast. We need them to be able to get the ideas that our business has from the idea stage into production as quickly as possible, but not only quick, not cutting corners, but with security and resiliency baked into it. We want to keep Sabre as the technology platform at the center of the business of travel. In order to do that, we need to move as fast as our customers need us to do. Everybody has a layer cake diagram of their architecture. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but on the bottom, it's cloud migration. That's the infrastructure. That's private cloud. That's public cloud with AWS and Azure. And a key component for us there is Red Hat OpenShift. In 5 to 10 years, we don't know exactly where our customers will demand that we run their workloads. So we need a platform that we can bring with us wherever we need to deliver our capabilities in the geography that our customers need it. The mainframes, you saw a picture of one of the old mainframes at the beginning. We still have the mainframes, but by 2023, we're getting off mainframe. And what are we doing with the workloads that we're pulling off of there? The workloads that we have on the mainframe, we're dropping them straight into our next generation platform, which means we're dropping them straight into Red Hat OpenShift. All right, Azure Managed OpenShift. So a year ago in San Francisco, when Microsoft announced Azure Managed OpenShift, we got pretty excited. We had already chosen OpenShift for our next generation platform, and we were wondering if we could use Azure Managed OpenShift to take some of that heavy lifting off of our hands of operating clusters. So we contacted our support team, our Microsoft team, and we got into the beta program for Azure Managed OpenShift. And here are a few ways that we've used Azure Managed OpenShift while we've been in the beta program. In the fall, Red Hat and Microsoft and a few other sponsors sponsored a hackathon in our Krakow, Poland office. What Azure Managed OpenShift allowed us to do, allowed these teams to spin up OpenShift clusters, create their projects, and when the hackathon was over, just shut them down. And the real beauty of it is we didn't have to have anybody from our operations team help them out. Our IT risk and security team, they wanted to dig deep into OpenShift, into the clusters, see what kind of penetration tests they could do, try and find all the holes. And they wanted to do some destructive testing, and we didn't want them doing that on the clusters that we're building in AWS. So we let them spin up OpenShift clusters on Azure, Azure Managed OpenShift. It was super easy. They could do it themselves. They could shut them down. And they didn't have to use any time from our operations team. And that operations team was busy delivering our first 3 OpenShift clusters for our next generation platform in Oregon. We have a dev cert and prod environment. And we really needed to protect our operations team so they could deliver this on time. We went general availability on April 1st. With the applications that we're putting onto next-gen platform, onto OpenShift, we're going for a continuously available application architecture, which means we're going to have to span multiple regions in the cloud in order to make that happen. So pretty soon we'll have more regions in AWS with OpenShift. Soon after that, we'll have our private cloud and Azure. Ooh, is it stuck? No, go back. And as our developers start to see increasing velocity, everybody's going to want their own cluster. She's going to want a cluster. That guy's going to want a cluster. The guy in the back there is going to want a cluster. And that slide really scares me. How do you operate hundreds and thousands of OpenShift clusters? I'd like to stand here and tell you that, yes, we're using Azure Managed OpenShift in production today, but it's not even generally available, so there's no support on it. But our operations team that was building out our clusters in AWS, US West 2, they're the exact same people that need to dig deep into Azure Managed OpenShift to see if it will work for our next generation platform. But the hope there is that with Microsoft doing a lot of the heavy lifting, that we can scale to any number of clusters that we need to without much problem. But what I can tell you is that with Jim Zimmerman and our overall Red Hat team, that the support we've received, the working together, that we've definitely picked two good partners to help us along on our long journey to the cloud and containers. All right, if a transformation journey sounds exciting to you and you like working with Microsoft and Red Hat, come and join us. Come and join us. We have offices in Krakow, Poland, Bangalore, India, Dallas, Texas. And in a few weeks, we're opening up an office just down the street here in Boston, our Boston Innovation Lab. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jim and Jim.